Dcad Lesson 8, which involves the section drawing for our garage. I'm going to go ahead and call up layer 1 because layer 1 indicates where our garage door is. So I'm hitting L for layers, and I'm scrolling up to layer 1, which is the main floor plan, and I'm going to click the unlock key. It's now open. And while I'm at it, I'm going to scroll on down to layer 75, which is our section A section. And I'm going to click twice in the activation box to make that the current active layer and click OK. Now I'm going to zoom up on our floor plan and roof plan by hitting Z for zoom and selecting my zoom area. And there I am. And you can see where the garage door is located. And I want my section drawing to be sliced through the garage door area so I can also show the garage door header. My next task is to indicate a section slice position. And in order to do that, I'm going to click on a color that I don't use very often, which is sort of the orange color, to show where I want my slice to take place. What I'm going to do is hit V for vector, and I'm going to go near this lower right corner and gravity move by hitting the comma key. Then I'm hitting the asterisk key, which also is the point relative command. And I've typed in -7 for my distance to the left, and minus 10 for my -10 for if I could hit it, for my distance down. And that sets my cursor in the position that I want. I'm going to hit the H key, which toggles on the orthogonal mode so I can get a nice straight line and go up a ways, and then this left click to set another point. And I'm hitting my scroll button to activate command. You can see my section line right here. Now, normally what I do is go on out of, well, I can leave it in orthogonal mode, and I'm going to hit the arrow command, which is the greater than key. So hit that, and I'm going to draw an arrow out here, a little ways, and set my 2 points and hit enter. And you can see my arrow. Now I'm going to click on that, but it selected my line instead of the arrow, so I'm going to hit enter again, and it'll toggle to the next area of selection, and I'm going to hit N for repeat and make another one of these arrows down here. So this tells me which direction I'm looking in for my section drawing. Now I'm going to hide the roof plan text simply because it's somewhat in the way, so I'm hitting L for layers again. And I'm going to find my roof plan text, which should be layer 31. And also I'm going to get rid of hide layer 32, the support layer, also because I do have the floor plan up and I don't need either one of those. So I'm holding down Control and selecting both of those layers, right-clicking and hide highlighted layers. And you can see that the light bulbs go off and the locks get locked. And I click OK. And so now you can see the floor plan and the roof plan and where my section line will be drawn. Usually I will go to an odd increment in my section drawing because the trusses are on 2-foot centers, and I usually want the section line to be cut between trusses. Now I'm going to zoom out by hitting Control W, and it takes me out to the full drawing size. And what I want to do now is I want to rotate the drawing, the view of the drawing. I don't want to rotate just components of the drawing. I want to rotate the whole enchilada. So what I'm doing is I'm going over here to the Working Plane Properties command. And if you left click on that, you can see that it provides left view, rear view, right, and front. So what I want is the right view, because I want to basically rotate the view of this drawing 90 degrees to the right. So I'm going to click on that and click Set as Active Working Plane. And then I'm going to hit Control W again. So you can see that the entire drawing has been rotated, and even the layers that aren't visible have been rotated. So that keeps us from getting things overly confused. If you use the rotate command by selecting objects and then hitting R and rotating them, sometimes you end up rotating some objects, but objects that are hidden from view, or layers that are turned off or whatever, don't get rotated, so you can kind of mess up your drawing that way. So it's better to use this working plane properties command because it rotates the entire enchilada, whether you can see it or not. So now I'm going to draw some extension lines down from the floor plan. You can see that I'm still in orthogonal mode, and the reason that's going to work for me is I want those lines to be straight. So I'm going to make these lines black and click on the black color up there, my color toolbox, and I'm going to hit V for vector, and I'm in layer 75 for the section. So I'm going to right click close to this corner, and it snaps to the corner and sets a point. You can see that there's a point set down here, and then I bring my cursor on down to the floor elevation and just hit K, and it snaps to that line, and hit enter, and I have a line there. So now this is an awfully tall wall line, but it aligns with that front outside edge of the wall. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that line, and what I want to do now is I want to bring the top of this line down to the ceiling level. So what I'm doing is I'm going to hit the line extension command, which if you hit shift and dash, it basically turns it into, and then you left click on it, and you can see how it moves the line, either extends it or reduces it. And I'm just going to get it down fairly close to the ceiling line and then left click. And now I'm going to trim this line to the ceiling line by hitting E and then clicking near the line and clicking at the ceiling line. And you can see that this line now represents the actual wall height from the floor to the ceiling line. I'm going to hit or Shift R, and that will Control R, and that will clean up the drawing. So I'm going to select this line now because I'm going to use the parallel command. The parallel command is the equals sign, equals key. So just think of two parallel lines. So hit equals and click near the selected line, and you can see as I move this back and forth that that same length of line will be made into a parallel line. And so what I'm going to do is even if I move the cursor up higher in the drawing, it still moves it back and forth. So I'm going to right click on this far right corner, and that sets this line, and it's aligned with that lower right corner. Now I'm going to do the inside of the wall line. Even though there's a doorway there, I still want to know where the inside of the wall line is. So I'm hitting parallel equals again, and I'm going to right click on the inside of that wall, and I'm going to do the same thing on the next wall. So I'm going to hit the parallel key again, or the equals key, and click near that line, and again move over to the inside of the wall on the right hand side and right click, and it'll gravity snap and set a point, which establishes that parallel line. Now if I hit escape, it'll unselect what I have, and I'm going to zoom up on this area so we can see it a little more closely. Z for zoom, and let's just create our zoom box, and we'll take a look at it. Now you can see the outside of the wall here, the inside of the wall, and the outside of the wall here, and the inside of the wall. So basically we have our two walls set up. Now I'm going to draw my ceiling line by right-clicking at this upper left wall point, and first I'm hit V for vector, and right-click so it gravity snaps and sets a point. Then I'm going to go over to this far right and right-click, and you can see I have my line already set and ready to go, so I can either hit enter or hit my scroll button on the mouse, and it's created my ceiling line across there. Now this garage floor is going to be sloping towards the door. The code requires that we slope the garage floors for drainage. So what I want to do is I want to slope this garage about 4 inches, this garage floor. So I'm going to hit V for vector again, and I'm going to right click on this point here at the floor level on the right wall, and I'm going to gravity move by hitting comma, and it moves the cursor without setting a point. And now I'm going to hit the point relative command, which is the apostrophe, and I'm going to hit 0 for X because I don't want to move along the X axis at all. And then I'm going to hit tab, and I want to go minus 4 inches. That'll drop this line down 4 inches, and you can see the slope of the wall line there. So now I can just hit enter, and it draws my line. So now I want these two wall lines to come down to this sloping floor. So I'm going to hit E, and that basically trims my wall line to the floor line, and I'm going to hit E again, and it trims my inside wall line to the floor line. So that accommodates the sloping floor really nicely. And what we need to do next is put some plates on this wall. So I'm going to hit V up here at the top, and gravity move, that's comma, hit my point relative apostrophe again, and I don't want to move the x-axis at all, so that's 0, and I'm going to hit tab, and I'm going to go minus 1.5 inches for my plate. And then I'm just going to hit H so that I'm in orthogonal mode. That gives me a nice straight line, and just right click to this point there, and I'm going to click my scroll button on my mouse, and there's my first plate. Now I'm going to right click or actually hit the period and select that, and gravity move with a comma key, and I'm going to duplicate that. So I'm going to hit N for duplicate, and I'm going to hit the point relative command, and I'm going to tab down to the Y, and it's already set at 1.5 inches, which is 0.125 feet, and hit enter, and there's my other one. Now I want to do the same thing and just create a bottom plate down here. So I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to zoom up on this thing, and I'm going to select this little plate line here, and I'm going to click on set selection handles, left click on that, and I want to set my selection handle 1.5 inches below, and so this lower top plate line is conveniently 1.5 inches below, and I can hit H to get out of orthogonal mode. There's no point in being in that anymore. You can see I'm no longer in that. And so I can hit enter, and you can see that my handle has been relocated to that position. Now I'm going to scroll down a ways till I get to the bottom of it, and I'm actually going to hold control down a little bit and roll my scroll wheel a little bit to actually zoom out a little bit. Now I'm going to hit N to duplicate, and it's going to set to this corner, and there's my bottom plate. So now I can scroll out, zoom out a little bit further, and you can see this is my wall, and it's really looking pretty good. It looks like a wall. So unfortunately, this is cutting through the garage door, and so most of this wall will be gone. There will be a header involved. But before we get there, I'm going to go ahead and deal with the roof. So this is going to be a trussed roof. So I'm going to start drawing my truss, and I want these trusses to just have 2x4 top chords and 2x4 bottom chords. So it's really going to be a pretty straightforward truss. So in order to do that, and it's at a 4 12 pitch, so in order to do that, I'm going to hit V for vector, and I'm going to gravity move to this corner of the wall, upper corner of the wall, and you can see my cursor is located there. Now I'm going to hit the point relative command, and I still want X to be 0. I'm going to hit tab, go down to the next one, and I'm going to hit 0.25 inches, and the reason is to raise my cursor up 1/4 inch, and the reason is that trusses have a 1/4 inch butt cut usually on them, and that's where we start. So when I hit enter, it moves my cursor up 1/4 inch and sets a point. Now I'm going to hit point relative again, and this time I want, because it's a 4 12 pitch, I'm going to hit 12 on the x-axis, and I'm going to hit 4 on the y-axis, and then I'm going to hit enter. And so there's the underside of my top chord of my truss. Now I'm going to use the parallel by distance command, which is F2. But before I do that, I'm going to select this this previous line, and hit F2, and I'm going to hit Tab, and I'm going to type in 3.5 inches. So I want my top chord to be basically a 2x4. So parallel by distance, I'm going to click close to this line with left click close to it and pull my cursor up, and you can see it wants to establish my line at 3.5 inches parallel to this other line. I'm going to just left click, and it draws a line. I'm going to hit escape, and that will unselect the selected line. Now I want to hide my elevation lines because I know I don't need them right now. So I'm going to hit L for layers, and I'm going to go down to layer 88 and turn off the light bulb, and you can see they're already gone, and hit OK. And so they're out of my way now. Now I also need to draw a parallel line 3.5 inches above my seedling line, because that'll be the top of my bottom truss cord. So I'm going to hit F2 again. It still has the 3.5 inches, which is 0.2917 feet. And I'm going to, and I don't even need to select it. If I'm not near anything, it's just going to left click, and there you go. And so that's my bottom chord. So we want to have a 2-foot eave overhang. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go down below these plates here and just gravity move, hit the comma key to gravity move my cursor to the outside of the wall line. Well, that's the inside wall line. Let's try it again. Okay, gravity move. I'm at the outside wall line, and I'm going to hit point relative again, and that's the apostrophe. And for my x-axis, I'm going to type -2, and I want in the y-axis just to be 0. So I'm going to hit Tab and hit 0, and then I'm going to hit Enter. Well, that would have been great, except for I forgot to initiate the command first. So the command is the vector command, and that's what I need to do in order to draw a line. So we're going to try this again. Hit V for vector, gravity move by hitting the comma, pull up the point relative command, and it's still set at -2, and hit Enter, and it sets a point, moves 2 feet to the left and sets a point. Now I'm going to hit H to initiate the orthogonal mode and come up just a little bit and set a point and hit Enter, or hit the scroll button on the mouse. Now I want to connect this line and the bottom edge of my top truss cord. So for that, I'm going to hit Shift E, because Shift E trims 2 lines to each other. So Shift E, and I'm bottom of this one and bottom of this one, and look, those 2 are trimmed to each other. Now this might be, I'm going to reduce the height of this a little bit because it might trim the wrong portion away. So I'm going to select it and use the trim command, which again is the underline command, and move it down a little bit to there, and that's pretty good. So now I'm going to use Shift E on the top of the top chord and the eave line. Shift E, right click, and then just click near this line, and you can see there it is. Now I want to trim the top of this bottom chord line to the top, to the bottom of the top chord. So I'm going to hit E and click near this line and click near this line, and you can see that it's trimmed to it really nicely. So we're starting to actually look like a little bit like a roof. So now I'm going to draw my roof sheathing, and that's just going to be 5/8 plywood. I don't usually indicate the shingles in section drawing unless I'm really zoomed up, but we're just going to do this at 5/8 of an inch to indicate the roof sheathing. So I'm going to hit F2 for parallel by distance, and I'm going to hit Tab and enter my distance of 0.625 inches, which is 5/8, and click near the top of the top chord and pull my line up, my cursor up, and left click, and there's my roof sheathing. Now I need to zoom up to this eave overhang because there's a couple things I need to do there. One is I'm going to hit zoom to zoom up to that area, and you can see that I need to extend, I'm going to trim this line and my roof sheathing line to each other. So I'm going to hit Shift E, and click that, and there we go. Now I need to have a gutter on there, so in order to get a gutter, I'm going to hit Control F9 to go to my symbols, and gutters are in my sim layer, just a basic catch-all for pretty much all kinds of stuff. Double click that to open it up. Scroll down to G for gutters. G, and here we are. Let's see, a whole bunch of different ones. Got 2, it's like K-style. Got 3 left. Let's try that one. That looks pretty good. Okay, so open and just click it down here, and that's good enough. Well, that's kind of big though. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explode that symbol, and I'm going to select all of these points and go to orthogonal mode. Drag this one point, which will drag the rest of the highlighted points with it. Just right click to it and move it in a little bit, and then left click. There, that looks better. And hit escape to unselect. You can also see that my wall line doesn't quite touch the bottom of the top chord because of that 1/4 inch butt cut. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that wall line to a butt, the bottom of that top chord. So I'm going to hit E, click near the line, and actually I'll go out of orthogonal mode and click this line, and you can see that it scooted right up to it and trimmed it right to it, just like that. Now I need to zoom out a little bit, and I use my scroll button a lot to do that. So you can hit, hold down Control and roll out on your scroll button a little bit and get to drawing, and you also use the scroll bars to kind of move things around a little bit. And the reason I'm going to do that is we're going to do something that's kind of fun. We're just basically going to use the mirror command. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the mirror command to, I'm going to select this entire roof assembly at this point in time, and I'm going to zoom up to this area here so I can locate my handle right at the top of the outside wall here. So I'm going to use the Set Selection Handles command, left click on that, move to this, not the top of the butt cut, but the lower portion right here, and right click on that, and then hit my scroll button to make that point the current handle. Now I'm going to zoom back out by holding Control and rolling on my scroll button. And now I'm going to hit the mirror command, which is a slash command, and it comes up by default on the x-axis. So if I click to the outside of this wall right now, boom, there it is. It brought in the gutter, the plates, the whole enchilada. I still need to trim the top of my bottom chord to the bottom of the top chord, which I'll just use the E command, hit E, and trim it to it, and there we are. So now I need to trim these lines to each other. So I'm going to hit Shift E, and because that trims 2 lines to each other. It doesn't matter whether they're selected or not. So I'll hit Escape to unselect them. I'm going to hit Shift E and trim these 2 lines to each other. Shift E again to trim these 2 lines to each other, and Shift E again to trim these 2 lines to each other. So now we're starting to look like an actual roof. I'm going to hit Control R to refresh the drawing. See, everything's looking pretty good here. So now we need to draw some of our truss webbing, or panels as they call it in the truss industry. Easiest way to do that is to draw a center line down. So I'm hitting V for vector and right clicking to snap to that point here, and I'm hitting H for orthogonal mode. You can see it's kicked in up here, and I'm bringing my line straight down close to the top of this bottom chord and hitting K, and it snaps to it, and hit enter, and there's my line. So what I'm going to need to do is also find the midpoint right in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit V for vector, right click to snap right here, and I want to go out of orthogonal mode and just K to the line here somewhere and hit enter, or right click on my or click on my scroll button. Now what I want to do is I want to take this line and use the parallel command. I'm just going to hit equals and selected entities only. I'm going up there. I'm going to check that because I want to make sure it doesn't grab any other lines. And I'm going to click next to that line and move it back and forth. And so this line here, I'm going to hit Control K to center it. Control K, and it centered it along this line. It's still a parallel line, but it's centered along this line. So now I'm going to get rid of this line. I'm just going to select it by left-clicking next to it, hit Delete. And this line I need to trim down to here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit E, which is the trim command, and trim this line down to here. Oh, that didn't work. It trimmed the wrong way. So I'm going to hit Control Z, which is the undo command. And I'm going to select this line and use the line trim command, which is the underline command, and get down a little bit closer. Now I'm going to hit E again, and that time it worked. So I have my center line here, and I have my halfway line here, halfway between the center line and this point. And so now I'm going to draw another line that goes from here to here using V for vector. Right click to snap to that point, and then right click to snap to that point, and hit my scroll button to activate the line. So now these are the basics of my truss webbing. Now these are all, when I click on them, you can see that they're individual lines. So I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to hold down Shift and click near the other two lines and hit B. So B combines the lines. Think of combine, B for combine, I guess. You click near it and you can see that they're all combined into a single line now. Hit Escape. So these truss webs are going to be 2x4s, and I'm using these lines as the center line for those 2x4s. So what I'm going to do is use parallel by distance and hit F2. Actually, I'm going to select this first and hit F2, and I want to hit Tab, and I want this to be 1 3/4 because that's at the midpoint of a 2x4. So I'm going to type in 1.75 inches and click next to this selected line, and you can see it moves out that way. And I'm just going to click, and there it is, and I'm going to hit F2 again. And still 1.1458, which is 1 3/4, and I'm going to click next to this highlighted line and move it the other direction and click. Now I'm going to hit Delete, and that will delete my highlighted line. Delete. And so there's my webbing. It's a little bit sloppy at this point, but we're going to clean that up. So because the line we used for paralleling was a continuous line, these lines are also. So if I click near it, you can see it selects the entire line, and the same with the other one. So in order to trim these to the truss cords, what we have to do first is trim them to each other, because that kind of breaks them up again. So I'm hitting Shift E and trimming this to this, and then Shift E and Shift E again, and trimming this to this. So what that does now is I can hit E and trim this line to this line, and hit E again and this line to this line, hit E again and trim this line to this line, and hit E again and trim this line to this line. Now that last one I didn't really need to do, because actually I'm going to get rid of this. The other thing I'm going to do is hit E and trim this to the bottom of our top cord here. So I'm going to select this line, hit Delete, and get rid of it. So the reason I did that is because what I'm going to do is select this whole thing now, set a selection handle. I'm just going to send it at the center of the ridge, and hit the scroll button to make that active. And now I'm going to use the mirror command again, just like we did with the walls, which is a slash, and click to the center line again, hit Escape, and there's our truss. So this is starting to look like a section drawing if we're not careful. Our floor slab is going to be 4 inches, so I'm going to use the parallel by distance command to create the bottom of that floor slab. So I'm selecting the slab, I'm hitting F2 for parallel by distance, and I'm going to type in 4 inches. And click near it and bring it down, and there's my slab. Now I'm going to bring this line, trim these 2 lines to each other, and I'll explain why in just a second. So to do that, I'm going to hit Shift E, and that allows me to trim 2 lines. That's done that. And I'm going to do the same thing over on this other side, Shift E. And the reason is I'm going to set my footings. Now I'm going to, actually I'm going to save the drawing because I've gone quite a while without saving, and that's always risky. And I'm going to import a footing from my own symbols. So I'm going to hit Control F9, and I'm still in symbols, so I'm going to scroll on down to footings, F for footings, 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 footings. Okay, here we are. Somewhere in here. Okay, here we are, footing 16 monolithic. Let's see what that looks like. That looks like what we're interested in. So I'm going to click Open, and I'm going to, this is why I wanted this aligned. I'm going to right click there, right at that lower corner there, and hit Enter, and Escape. And so this is a symbol now. And I can mirror that symbol by hitting the mirror command, which is the slash command, but it's got to be selected to do it. So I'm going to select it. I still want to reset my handle to this point here, hit the slash, which is mirror, and go to the other side. And now these aren't quite level, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to explode both of these and hit this explode, selection explode command, and the same thing with this one. I'm going to hit selection explode command. Now I want these 2 to be level, otherwise it gets kind of tedious pouring the foundation. So I'm going to hit V for vector and hit H for orthogonal mode and bring it on over to this guy right here and just right click, and there I am. So now I'm going to select this previous symbol and set a handle to this corner down here. Set selection handle, right click to that corner, and hit H to go out of orthogonal mode. I don't need that right now. H. And then I'm going to hit M for move and just move it up to here, and there I am. So now these footings are essentially level. I can get rid of this line down below now. Select it and hit delete. I'm going to Shift E, which will trim this inside footing line to the bottom of the slab. Shift E, there to there. Well, almost. Let me get it over there a little closer. I'm going to use the line extend command, extension command, or trim command, and bring this back a little closer. And the same over here. And now I'm going to hit Shift E again, Shift E, and trim this to this, and Shift E, and trim this to this. And you can see now that I'm hit Control R to regenerate the drawing, and you can see that we're pretty much getting there. So that's our basic section drawing. I still need to put in siding and the header, and I'll do that in the next lesson.